She would step through that entrance and utterly shift the balance of authority in this space filled with snap judgments. Sophia Mendes fidgeted with the watch on her wrist, a present from her husband that evoked memories of their initial encounter. At 35, her understated yet refined dress stood in stark contrast to the opulent jewelry and high-end fashion prevalent in the priority boarding lounge. The first-class section of Stellar Airways sparkled with its plush leather seats, impeccably attired crew members, and the scent of freshly poured champagne. Eduardo had urged her to savor this solo flight as a treat for orchestrating a triumphant charity gala. "You're worthy of every indulgence," he'd told her before an urgent meeting called him away, promising to join her at the resort shortly after. Sophia exhaled deeply and presented her first-class boarding pass to the gate attendant, ready to embrace the extravagance she typically shunned despite being wed to one of the nation's wealthiest men. "I'm afraid this section is reserved exclusively for first-class travelers," stated Camila Reynolds, the lead flight attendant, her eyes icily appraising Sophia's modest attire. Her patronizing tone sliced through the atmosphere like a sharp edge. Tall and meticulously groomed, Camila's blonde hair was pulled into a severe bun, her pristine navy uniform decorated with gold stripes that she wore like emblems of dominance rather than duty. "I hold a first-class ticket," Sophia replied evenly, offering her boarding pass. Camila accepted it gingerly, as though it might taint her, her French, manicured nails glinting under the cabin's glow. "There appears to be a mistake," Camila said, her perfectly arched eyebrows lifting in skepticism. "Perhaps the system misallocated your seat." She scrutinized the ticket dramatically, her lips pursed in mock doubt. A man in a costly suit glanced up from his financial journal, his gold cufflinks flashing as he adjusted his glasses. "This happens constantly," he remarked loudly enough for all to hear. "Economy's getting too full these days." Several first-class passengers looked up, some with thinly veiled smirks, others with uneasy interest. A couple in coordinated designer attire murmured to one another, their gazes flitting between Sophia and her simple outfit. Camila offered a crocodile tear smile, her teeth dazzlingly white. "Let me see if we can find you a spot in the rear of the plane," she said. "I'm certain you'll feel much more at ease there." The word ease carried a clear subtext: you don't fit in here. Sophia's cheeks flushed, a wave of heat rising up her neck. "Please verify again," she said, maintaining her composure. "My husband specifically secured this seat for me." Her poise drew on years of experience as a flight attendant herself. "Your husband?" A woman adorned with a diamond necklace the size of a grape chuckled softly, her tone laced with disdain. "Sweetheart, everyone claims something like that when they're angling for an upgrade. Next, you'll say he's a tycoon or something equally fanciful." Subtle laughter spread through the cabin as Camila signaled another crew member, exchanging smug glances. Sophia's fingers brushed the watch Eduardo had gifted her on the day they met, when she was still a flight attendant. The cool metal grounded her, memories of her simpler past fueling her resilience. She had encountered bias before, but never anticipated it from peers in the profession she once cherished. A businessman nearby tapped his armrest with impatience. "Some of us have places to be," he muttered to no one in particular. "Can we sort this out and get moving?" Camila stood even straighter, her posture already flawless. "Please remain here while I clear up this mix-up," she said with a forced smile that didn't touch her eyes. "It might be best if you wait at the gate while we sort this out." Her tone left no room for debate. Sophia felt a surge of conflicting feelings: humiliation, outrage, and a spark of anger. She could easily reveal that she was married to Eduardo Vasquez, the airline's principal shareholder, and shift the situation instantly. Yet something held her back. Why should she need her husband's status to be treated with respect? The cabin manager approached, his face stern beneath his perfectly aligned cap. "Ma'am, there seems to be an issue with your booking," he said. "I'll need you to step off the plane while we address this." His tone was courteous but unyielding, allowing no protest. The pitying and scornful glances from other passengers pressed on Sophia as she fought to preserve her dignity. A woman in her 60s, draped in sapphires, tutted disapprovingly. A young executive typing on his laptop barely hid a smirk. Sophia held her ground, her voice soft but firm. "My ticket is legitimate. I belong here." Camilla's smile grew tighter. "Security measures, Mom," she said. "We can't allow just anyone in first class without proper confirmation." The phrase, "just anyone," lingered heavily, loaded with implication. At that moment, the aircraft door swung open again. The door parted with calculated precision, revealing Eduardo Vasquez's commanding figure. At 6'2", with broad shoulders, his presence demanded attention effortlessly. His perfectly tailored navy Tom Ford suit exuded understated power, contrasting with his relaxed yet confident demeanor. Silver streaks at his temples lent distinction to his dark, executive-cut hair. The cabin fell hushed. Eduardo's piercing steel, blue eyes swept the space methodically before settling on Sophia, who was being questioned by the crew. His face remained impassive, but those familiar with him might notice the slight narrowing of his eyes, a subtle sign of restrained anger beneath his calm exterior. "Sophia." Eduardo's deep, measured voice filled the cabin. "Is something wrong?" Camilla and the manager exchanged nervous glances, their earlier certainty replaced by unease. "Sir, we're just addressing a minor seating issue," the manager explained, his tone suddenly deferential, his body language adjusting to this unexpected presence. Eduardo strode down the aisle with the unhurried assurance of someone who owned not just the aircraft, but the very atmosphere around it. Passengers instinctively shrank back as he passed. "But that's my wife's seat, isn't it?" 2A. His voice carried a faint Spanish accent, lending a melodic quality that masked its commanding weight. "Your wife." Camilla echoed, her face paling as if drained of life. A murmur rippled through the cabin, electric and immediate. Eduardo positioned himself beside Sophia, his hand lightly resting on her lower back, a gesture both protective and possessive. His six-figure watch glinted subtly, not flashy but unmistakably valuable to those who noticed. "Yes, Sofia Mendez Vasquez, my wife," he said. "Has there been a problem with her seating?" Though polite, his question carried the undeniable authority of someone accustomed to answers. The manager's composure faltered noticeably. "Mr. Vasquez, we had no idea," he stammered. "We were simply following procedure to confirm." "Confirm what, exactly?" Eduardo interrupted, his gaze steady and piercing as it shifted from the manager to Camilla. "Whether she deserves to be in first class based on her appearance." The cabin fell into a profound silence, the kind that seems to mute even the sound of breathing, as the weight of their error dawned on everyone. "Mr. Vasquez, we didn't know." Camilla faltered, her face now ashen, her earlier arrogance evaporating like mist in sunlight. Her uniform's gold pins trembled with her shaking, catching the light with each nervous twitch. Sweat glistened along her hairline, threatening her flawless makeup. Eduardo's presence seemed to fill the space, though he hadn't raised his voice or made any aggressive gestures. The power dynamic had shifted dramatically. At 45, he carried the quiet assurance of a man who had built an empire through intellect and relentless determination, not luck or inheritance. "Clearly," he said, the single word ringing like a judgment. His sharp blue eyes, once described by a business magazine as capable of piercing corporate facades, took in every detail. Sophia's embarrassment, her shoulders slightly hunched despite her efforts to stay composed, the passengers, now wide-eyed stares, some frantically tapping their phones as they recognized him, the crew's sudden shift from authoritative to submissive in moments. When he spoke, his voice was calm but carried a weight that made each word feel heavy. Did you know that before we married, Sophia was the youngest chief flight attendant in Stellar Airways history? His hand remained gently on her back. She knows more about protocol and service than likely anyone in this cabin. A collective gasp rippled through the seats. The woman with the diamond necklace, who had mocked Sophia, now studied her in-flight magazine intently, her fingers nervously twisting her gold ring. The businessman who had grumbled about delays suddenly found his shoes riveting. She once averted a mid-flight crisis by spotting a passenger's symptoms before he even realized he was unwell. Eduardo continued, a note of pride warming his steady tone. She saved his life, and the airline honored her with a commendation that's still displayed at headquarters, though I'm starting to question if anyone here has seen it. Camilla's face had turned ghostly, and the manager tugged nervously at his collar, a bead of sweat trailing down his temple. Eduardo went on, his tone unwavering. I asked for the flight to be held for my arrival because I wanted to surprise my wife. It seems I arrived just in time. The pause before, just in time, carried a subtle menace, a masterclass in understated power. He turned to the manager, who clutched his cap like a lifeline. As the majority shareholder of Stellar Airways, I'm troubled by what I've witnessed here today. The words, majority shareholder, landed like a silent explosion. A passenger by the window gasped audibly, and Camila gripped a seat back to stay upright, her knuckles white against the leather. Monsieur Vasquez, the manager began, his voice wavering, I assure you, this was a one-time misunderstanding. Eduardo raised a hand, silencing him instantly with a simple gesture. Misunderstandings carry consequences, don't they? His tone was almost casual, making the implied threat even more potent. He pulled out his phone, typing swiftly with precise movements. I've just emailed the board. Starting tomorrow, all Stellar Airways staff will undergo mandatory anti-discrimination training. He fixed his gaze on Camila. Miss Reynolds, you'll have the privilege of being the first to participate. Camila swallowed hard, speechless, her career flashing before her eyes. The silver wings on her uniform, once a badge of pride, now felt like a heavy burden. A's for the Director of Customer Experience position we were considering. Eduardo continued, addressing the manager. I believe my wife, with her prior experience at the airline and her recent treatment as a passenger, is ideally suited to fill it, if she chooses. Sophia's eyes widened briefly, this being the first she'd heard of the role, though she quickly regained her composure. Eduardo then turned to the passengers, his voice carrying clearly without being raised. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the delay. As compensation, champagne will be free for the entire flight. In an quieter tone, directed at Camila but audible to those nearby, he added, please ensure my wife is treated with the respect she deserves. Your future with this airline depends on it. Camila nodded mutely, her empire of arrogance crumbling before the entire cabin. The transformation was complete, from imperious gatekeeper to humbled employee in mere minutes. She stepped back, signaling the other attendants to begin service immediately. No one missed the irony or the lesson. The businessman who had been dismissive now regarded Sophia with newfound respect, not just for Eduardo's influence, but for her grace under pressure. At the lavish beachfront resort, Sophia and Eduardo sipped wine on the private balcony of their suite, the sunset painting the ocean in golden tones. The flight, after the initial confrontation, had continued in tense silence, with Camila avoiding eye contact while attending to Sophia with almost painful deference. You always know how to make an entrance, Sophia said, a faint smile on her lips. Eduardo chuckled softly. This wasn't the reunion I had in mind, he admitted, taking her hand. But I must say, seeing their faces was gratifying. Sophia gazed at the ocean for a moment. You know, I've spent years avoiding your name or status, she said. I wanted to be valued for my own worth, not as Mrs. Vasquez. And you've earned that, Eduardo replied. The charity gala you organized raised more funds for underprivileged children than any event in the foundation's history. Sophia hesitated, touching the watch he'd given her years ago. Sometimes I miss my independence, the career I was carving out, she admitted. Eduardo studied her face. That's why I created the Director of Customer Experience role. It's not a handout, Sophia, it's because no one is more qualified. Sophia looked at him, surprised. You planned this before the plane incident. Eduardo smiled. It was meant to be your anniversary gift. You have the expertise, the vision, and now, after today, you know exactly what needs to change. Sophia felt unexpected tears well up. You never stopped believing in me, even when I doubted myself. Eduardo gently touched the watch on her wrist. Remember what I said when I gave you this. Time is the only true luxury. How we spend it and with whom. Sophia nodded, recalling the young businessman she'd met years ago when she served coffee in first class. That flight attendant taught me more about dignity and service in a 3-hour flight than I learned in years of boardrooms. Eduardo said, I didn't fall for Mrs. Vasquez, the billionaire's wife. I fell for Sofia Mendez, the woman who treated everyone, CEOs and children traveling alone, with the same unwavering respect. Sophia squeezed his hand, the sunset glinting off the watch that marked not just time but their shared journey. So, Eduardo asked softly, what does the future Director of Customer Experience think about transforming Stellar Airways? Sophia smiled, feeling lighter than she had in years. I think it's time for a new beginning. So, what did you make of this surprising turn of events? Did Eduardo's reveal as the airline's owner catch you off guard as much as it stunned the haughty crew? Sadly, many people face judgment daily based on their looks, attire, or background, without others knowing their true value or story. Have you ever faced a similar situation or seen someone unfairly underestimated? Don't forget to subscribe for more uplifting stories like this one, and hit the bell to stay updated on new videos. Your comments mean the world to us. Let us know where you're watching from. Share this video with someone who needs to hear its powerful message about not judging by appearances and recognizing that a person's true worth goes far beyond what meets the eye. Until the next story that challenges your perspectives and celebrates the power of treating everyone with dignity and respect.